I hope you find this video useful. It's about serve, invest and invite, which is our strategy, our very simple strategy for building relational bridges with people in order to help to bring our friends to Jesus. We want to serve real needs. We want to invest time, deepen relationships with people, and invite them into church community, church events such as Alpha. But most importantly, we want to invite them to come to know Jesus through the gospel. And this is really helped if we build those relational bridges by serving, investing, and inviting. During this Jonah series, we're going to be interviewing different people about how they do this. So I hope you find this video inspiring and useful. So serve, invest, and invite is a very simple strategy of God using us to serve our communities that He's put us into, to invest in the relationships, and to then invite them to the Alpha course, to invite them to church, and to invite them ultimately to come to know Jesus Christ. But it's often through building those bridges that we're going to reach those people in our lives. And I'm now going to talk to Jason about how he does this in his own life. So outside the church, what are the different communities that God has put you into, Jason?
Morning. So for me, then there's obvious ones like friends and family. I think probably the biggest context that I spend time and invest in outside those is at work. I work with a consultancy firm that's based up in town in the city, and I work with different clients around the place. And I've been at that company a long time, unusually. I've been at that company nearly 18 years, and it's grown from nothing to about 350 people, that kind of size. So I'd say that's probably the main context or the main community outside the church.
Wonderful. Do you have any examples of how you serve in order to demonstrate God's love?
Yes, I'm relatively senior in the business now, and I've had opportunity to really shape that business as it's grown. And so I've had opportunity to shape things like the policies of how people are treated, in terms of how we set ourselves up to look after our people, how we conduct ourselves, what our values are, how we hold ourselves to account for those things. And so I think it's quite a broad view there in terms of what does God's kingdom look like in serving people and bringing God's kingdom to people in a way that blesses them, in a way that has a kind of Christian witness. And of course there are individual things that I would hope I do and like to do and give people time and one-to-one kind of investment in them and support them. And I've had the opportunity to walk with people through some very difficult things. And because I've overseen all of our people functions, for example, then it means I've connected with people and talked with them as they've been talking about not just work things and is this hard and what about that promotion, but about divorce, about death, and grieving in their families, about adultery, about all sorts of different things. I've walked with people in individual relationships, I guess, and over time, then there's lots of doing life together, I guess, that comes with that kind of territory. Yeah. So there's a much broader sweep than you might, I guess, first expect than thinking about the workplace.
Yeah. What are the challenges you have in investing in relationships that God has given to you?
I think I have to be careful with our clients because they pay us a lot of money to help them with their work. I won't bore you with the detail. But you step into their cultures and their expectations and outputs and so on. And so, you're there for a particular reason and deliver a particular service. And I often think that in witnessing or in sharing, of course you can do this in how you conduct yourself and with integrity and so on. But in terms of sharing gospel, for example, directly, I think I have to be a little bit careful there. Also because I'm senior in the firm, there's sometimes a little bit of a dynamic of, if I'm senior and someone is more junior, I have to be careful the power imbalance in a way, of how I conduct myself in terms of what I believe. And so when there's a bit more parity there, or indeed there's a relationship that's already established, over time, then it's a little bit easier to have some of those conversations. But typically I'm praying for or waiting for people to raise it. So when they say, what do you do on the weekend? I say, I'll go to church, and then I'll wait to see if they ask about it, but I don't lead with those things. But having been in the business for a while, people generally know kind of who I am and some of that part of my life at times, and I'll say it from the front of a big session or something, what you get up to. So that can be a bit of a challenge. And I think one other for me is that the people in our firm are scattered all over the place. So I think I can only think of 3 or 4 people who live within a couple of miles of here. And they aren't necessarily the people I have closest relationships with either. So in terms of inviting people to actual things, we do use our home a lot. So I've had people, Ruth and I, my wife and I have had couples over for meals, all the other partners in the firm. We've had one at a time, and with their domestic partners as well at times. And I've had sort of 20 or 30 people at a time to the house. So you really try, but it almost has to be an occasion. Getting them to here on a Sunday morning, we've managed once or twice on Alpha course. But actually, when someone lives basically 2 hours away, the other side of London, and scattered all around, it is a challenge when we try to connect back directly into this community.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of how you invest in relationships in your life? I suppose you said it, you having people round, your house. I think it's great, Jason. I mean, you're a good friend. I think that's something that speaks massively. I mean, to us in the church, he's a good friend, isn't he? But he carries that over into the workplace, and I think that's a massive bridge builder, just being a good friend with people that you've just mentioned, going through difficult times. Inviting people into the church community, you've mentioned it really. It is a challenge, isn't it? But you have had people, I've met some of your friends who've come here. Yeah. And to carol services and things. I've met some. Yeah,
and I've, I would offer to pray for them, and when they're sick or family members are.
Yeah.
I have looked at the Bible once or twice with some of them, or I'll have conversations with them where I say, look, not sure where your thinking is with this, but I was praying and there's this Bible verse that came to mind, so I just want to.
And you've prayed with colleagues as well, haven't you? You used to have prayer groups.
Yeah, so with some other Christians there, and also I have prayed with those who are not, when that moment has felt right, when they've invited that, or I've offered in the context of a relationship, and they've said yes, please, and we've done that as well. But I think it's interesting that with all these things, I think kind of walking with the Holy Spirit and praying for Him to bring opportunity, to bring blessing, to bring blessing, God's blessing really on people in your presence there and how you conduct yourself. I think that opens things up, and that prophetic, in my opinion, is all just available through that whole week. I'm often sat there in meetings and I'm praying maybe in tongues, not out loud, that would be really weird, but to myself. And God, what do we do here? And often someone's talking, and I can see that this is complicated and difficult and awkward, and I'm thinking, God, what do we want to say here? And I do think wisdom from God, and sometimes kind of a way through something just comes because of the presence of the Holy Spirit, really. And so that's a big part of, I think, for me, witnessing in that community.
Wonderful. Anything else you'd like to say to us, Jason?
No, I think I'm stealing my own singing time.
You are.
Well. Because we're late, aren't we?
We started late. We went on too long at the beginning.
Tease each other. I'm good. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for sharing. I think that theme of the Holy Spirit, I think the theme of warm friendship, I think being open to the Holy Spirit, I think sensitivity is important. Wisdom is important. I'm not talking about being gung-ho here, I'm talking prayerfully, wisely, use the gifts you've got in the context you're in, and if we all do that, the net's very large. And God will give you people that He is working in due time. And prayer, that's a big one, which we're going to really end with.